Okay, so here we are live once again with another Mcfarlane Super Friends unboxing, and this one is Captain Cold. Little tiny lettering at the UPC. That's the only difference in the packaging. Now, I did mean, before I started this video, I meant to get the Mr. Freeze figure because I did want to compare with uh, with Captain Cold because he shares some pieces with Mr. Freeze. I think it's just the thighs and the upper arms and maybe the trunks. But I don't see what I did with that figure. And I thought I had it over here, which is probably why I didn't really think, oh, I should make sure I have Mr. Freeze over here because I thought I did have Mr. Freeze over here. But now I'm not seeing him around anywhere. That is unfortunate. I got Lex Luthor. So you would think Mr. Freeze would be on here somewhere, because last time I had Mr. Freeze that I can recall, it was when I was comparing him to Lex Luthor. But oh well, we can look at the arms on Lex Luthor at least. So all right, so we talked about the packaging on these several times, and I kind of refreshed it when I was talking about the Flash. So I don't really feel the need to get too into it. I will say that they made at least a little bit more use of their space since he's got two accessories versus the Flash's one, and one of the Flash's accessories was a little teeny tiny communication device. Bobby Wald says, I wonder how long it took Captain Cold to sit down and ponder what supervillain name he would want. Well, as far as I know, Captain Cold is not a military man or anything like that. So he probably just picked the word captain because he thought it sounded cool. And, cold, well, that was probably the first thing he started out with. He didn't want to be Mr. Cold because there's already that Mr. Zero guy in Gotham City, and he didn't want to compete with that. Like Mr. Freeze originally was named Mr. Zero, for those of you who don't know. And, Captain Freeze is just a lame name. That sounds like it'd be more like a mascot for a snow cone company. So here's the trading card. Got a picture of Captain Cold on there, and he's waving at us. Nice, friendly guy waving at us with a sneer on his face. I imagine Captain Cold, he didn't sound like this in the cartoon, but when I read the comics, I imagine him sounding somewhat like Dale Gribble. Don't ask me why. It just makes sense to me. So yeah, that's the trading card, and of course the back of the trading card is the same as the back of the Flash trading card that we saw yesterday. And now we can go ahead and take Captain Cold out of the package. I will set the card aside. So I do like to hold on to the cards, but I don't really care about the bubbles. So I will throw the bubbles away, the blisters, if you prefer that term. So Captain Cold comes with two accessories. He comes with his cold gun. There we go. So Leonard Snart was a small-time crook. I didn't actually talk too much about this in the Captain Cold multiverse figure, but yeah, he was a small-time crook who found a gun in a scientific facility he was trying to rob that had been accidentally blasted with some kind of radiation that turned it into a cold gun. So he stole it and he became Captain Cold. So that's the story of that. All right, so now we got to get the captain himself out of the blister. And much like the Flash, he's got double rubber tabs around his torso, which left a little residue on there. Doesn't seem to have much of anything else. But he is kind of deep in that package. Oh, no, wait. He's actually got some around his ankles. I didn't notice that. So he's got another double rubber tab around his ankles. So we got that out. All right, so now we got the figure out of the package. We got the accessory out of the package. And let's have a look at those accessories. So we have a little teeny tiny Legion of Doom communication device. And like most of these figures, Captain Cold only has one gripping hand. The other hand is a solid fist. So you can only hold one of these accessories at the time. And guess which one I'm going to have him holding? Like 100% of the time. That's right. It's going to be the freeze gun. So we'll just set that aside and it'll probably get lost and I'll probably never think about it again. And I noticed that Captain Cold has a holster, which is cool, except for it's just a dummy holster, which can't actually open and hold the gun, which is the same thing they did with the multiverse Captain Cold, and it really irritated me. And it's a little more forgivable on these because these figures are supposed to be a little more basic, But why even put the holster on there if you're not going to make it a functional holster? Is what I ask you. Like if you're going to do something, then do it right. Don't half-ass it. Give me a working holster, or just don't give me a holster at all, because it's just gonna piss me off. That's all it's gonna do. All right. So you notice Captain Cold's jacket is a rather plainly sculpted torso. It's got some wrinkles on it, but I believe it's a new torso. It is not the same torso that was on Mr. Freeze. The trunks might be the same, just with a different belt, but I don't think they are. It looks like this belt is actually one solid piece with the trunks. So that means the pieces that are the same on this guy that are as Mr. Freeze is the thighs and the upper arms, and maybe the lower part of the arm just with like a different cuff on here. So let's compare with Lex Luthor, who definitely has the same arms as Captain Cold. And it looks to me like Lex has arms that his cuffs are a separate piece. The green plastic is definitely separate from the purple plastic. And I think that that's the case on Mr. Freeze as well. Mr. Freeze. I know that's the case on Mr. Freeze, but I think that's the case on Captain Cold as well. It does look like the forearms are the same, at least down to where the glove is. So if this is a new sculpt or new mold, it's a new mold that's based on the old sculpt. So he does have like I think the white pieces are definitely separate pieces of plastic. And this right hand seems like really stuck. It is not wanting to rotate at all. Same with the left hand. Those are both fixed on there. When we talk about the articulation later, keep that in mind. All right, but the jacket is just kind of a plain molded jacket. The icicle type trim is not sculpted on there. Now, oftentimes when you see an action figure of Captain Cold, I think on every action figure I've ever seen a Captain Cold up till then, the cowl is kind of sculpted. If it's not a separate piece, it's at least kind of like sculpted into the figure. But this one is not sculpted into the figure at all. You can probably tell even over the camera that it is just the white is just painted straight onto the blue. And that at first, originally, I was thinking that that was kind of cheap looking. But as I watched some of the episodes of the Challenge of the Super Friends, and you can kind of see it in this picture too, it does look on this version more like it's almost sort of like screen printed onto the jacket rather than being like a separate furry piece. You see, it doesn't have any kind of furry detail to it at all. It doesn't have any kind of like where it's raising up from the jacket. It does look like it's printed on there. So I think that Mcfarlane actually did a good job by just having the white just kind of printed onto the jacket, because that actually is pretty accurate to what he looked like on the cartoon. And speaking of what he looked like on the cartoon, you'll notice that Captain Cold has blue skin rather than Caucasian flesh. And that is because that's what he looked like on the cartoon. You know, that's what they made him look like on the cartoon. So that's what he looks like in this action figure. I don't know if he was affected by, you know, some kind of chemical or radiation, or if he's just wearing face paint, so he, you know, looks a little bit scarier. I do remember that on the 1990 Flash television series, when Captain Cold appeared on that, he was an albino. So you know, maybe that was kind of inspired by his bluish skin color here, but it was he wasn't blue. He was like a realistic albino color. So but that was something that made him look a little more unique on that, because he was basically on that just a guy in a trench coat. Before, guys in trench coats in superhero shows were cool. So here he is holding the cold gun. Am I even going to bother to have him hold that communication device? No, I'm not going to bother with that. But Captain Cold got to have his cold gun. He's definitely one up on Mr. Freeze in that department, because Mr. Freeze didn't even have his cold gun. And, you know, I'm guessing that might be part of that whole, like, DC wasn't allowing McFarlane to give their characters guns thing. But, you know, it's a cold gun, not a real gun. So I don't know why that would be affected, but apparently it was. So let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. Like I said, his wrists are just stuck. like they ain't budging at all. Like even like a little bit of gentle coaxing, I can't even feel the plastic cracking. So if I want to get his wrists to move, I'm going to have to apply some heat to it. I'm going to have to use my hair dryer on it. And my hair dryer is in the kitchen right now because that was where I was using it last. Obviously, I don't use a hair dryer to dry my hair. I use it on action figures. But yeah. So you're just going to have to trust me when I say that this is a figure that's designed. It's intended to have rotating wrists, but this one doesn't, right, currently. All right, so Captain Cold can turn his head all the way around and look up and down slightly. You can see very slightly movement there. Tilt his head quizzically from side to side slightly. Again, I don't believe these heads are intended to move in such a way, and if you can get any kind of side to side movement out of it, that's a bonus. It's just intended to rotate all the way around. And you'll notice that Captain Cold, true to his design on the cartoon, he actually does have little strings hanging down from his parka hood where he ties it and tightens it to his head. So that's kind of nice. Captain Cold's arms, of course, rotate all around the shoulders, although these are really stiff. These tend to be kind of stiff, these figures. So, but they rotate all the way around the shoulders and move up about that far. Captain Cold has a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which straightens out to about that far, bends in about that far, and rotates all the way around. Theoretically, his wrists rotate all the way around. Ideally, his wrists would rotate all the way around. But my sample, not going to do that. Sorry, folks. You're just going to have to take my word for it. There's an articulation there. It just ain't moving. So anyway, Captain Cold can rotate all the way around the waist. And man, that is the tightest waist I've seen on one of these figures so far. Captain Cold has his buttocks sculpted onto his trunks, so his legs are only going to move back about that far, but that's not the worst I've seen on these figures. So, and his legs move forward about that far, so he can almost do the splits, no problem. Captain Cold has a single joint of articulation at the knee that bends in about that far and rotates all the way around. And that is the extent of his articulation. He doesn't have any articulation from the knee down. It's just a solid leg underneath that. Like I've said before, these figures are a lot more simple than a typical Mcfarlane multiverse. A little more better articulated than a superpowers, but not quite as well articulated as a multiverse. It's kind of like the bridge between the two. Bobby Wald says, I wonder if Batman just has a pouch designated for cold villains. I remember a Batman episode where he defeated Mr. Freeze with a thermos of chicken noodle soup. I remember that too. And although you didn't say specifically, I'm going to say this for the people in the audience, he's not even talking about an episode of the 1966 Batman TV show, which if you weren't overly familiar with either of those shows, it would be forgivable if you realize that. No, he's talking about Batman the Animated Series. Batman was still doing stuff like that in Batman the Animated Series. He's just that prepared. Actually, in this case, it was because Alfred had given him the thermos of chicken noodle soup because he was starting to come down with a cold from being frozen by Mr. Freeze. So Alfred gets the points for the prep time in this case. So good on you, Alfred. Love you, guy. But yeah, Batman takes a thermos and smashes it out of desperation, basically, because Mr. Freeze is about to like just crush him with his hydraulic superhuman suit. And Batman takes the thermos and smashes it into his helmet, and the thermos comes open, and the hot chicken noodle soup on the cold glass helmet causes it to break. So it's pretty cool. So, but yeah, Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite Batman villains, and that's one of my favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and that's why Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite Batman villains. So it all ties together, doesn't it? But you might be tempted to call Captain Cold like a dime store Mr. Freeze, and I have heard many people call him that before, but he's not really, because at the time, Mr. Freeze had only made one appearance in the comics, and if he'd even made, I think Mr. Freeze predated, if I remember correctly. I think Mr. Freeze predated Captain Cold. Well, we'll look it up real quick. We'll work the Google on the internet machine, and hopefully it won't take too long this time. All right, so, but I believe Captain Cold appeared in one of the showcase issues that was spotlighting the Flash. Captain Crunch? No, Captain Cold. There we go. All right, so we'll look up Captain Cold real quick because now I'm curious about it. What was his first appearance? Oh, I just should have put that would have made it easier. First appearance. All right, so I love it when I have to spell stuff on it. Yeah, June 1957, and Mr. Freeze. So when Mr. Freeze first appeared in his one-shot appearance, he was called Mr. Zero, and he wasn't called Mr. Freeze until they brought him back after his popularity on the television show. So technically, there's 2 appearances of Mr. Freeze. Batman 121 in February 1959. So I was remembering incorrectly. So yeah, Captain Cold actually predates Mr. Freeze. And when Mr. Freeze first showed up, he was called Mr. Zero, and he was just kind of a one-shot villain. And they adapted that into an episode of the 1966 TV series, changed the character's name from Mr. Zero to Mr. Freeze, probably because it's less explainy, because 0 degree temperature. No, just freeze. There, just say freeze. Stuff freezes 0 degree temperature. Just say freeze. So yeah, Captain Cold actually appeared a little bit before Mr. Freeze. But even if Mr. Freeze had appeared first, he was just a one-shot villain, and Captain Cold was much more prominent throughout most of the '60s. And I think that issue where he was eventually called Mr. Freeze came out in 1969, I believe. It's also the last appearance for a while, not the last appearance forever, but the last appearance in 1966. It says on the TV show. No, I'm talking the comic, man. When was he first called Mr. Freeze in the comic? Let's see. It doesn't say what issue that is. Well, that's not a very thorough Wikipedia. I have the issue. I have the issue where it's first called Mr. Freeze. I own that. Like I would like to have the first issue with Mr. Zero, but it's not part of my collection yet. I had a goal at one point to own every comic book appearance of Mr. Freeze because there are surprisingly few. When I looked it up online and found an index, it was like less than 20 at that time. And of course, there's been more since then. But my cutoff point is New 52. DC ended with New 52. DC Comics ended with New 52. But I don't really care about anything after that. Even though they did put out some good comics after that time, obviously. But to me, that's where the DC universe ends. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Captain Cold. I hope you appreciated this episode. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this episode. YouTube likes it when I say like and subscribe, so I like to say like and subscribe so that more people like and subscribe. And I like to say to leave comments because I like it when you leave comments. I like it when you like and subscribe too, but I prefer comments. YouTube likes it when you leave comments, but they prefer to like and subscribe. So, help us both out, do all of those things. That'd be nice. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe down below. Then they send these videos out to more people, and then more people like and subscribe, etc., etc. Keep on going like that. That's a lot of fun. Next episode, I'll be back. We've got more Super Friends. We are like almost halfway through Super Friends. We are halfway through the episode, but we're almost halfway through the figures. We're about halfway through. We've still got 4 more Super Friends figures, but one of those, or 2 of those, are going to be in the same episode. So our next episode is going to be Wonder Woman's nemesis, the Cheetah, and I'm looking forward to talking about her. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that one, what do you got to do? That's right, you got to like and subscribe and all that fun YouTube stuff down below. There, I snuck it in there again. So, but that's it for Captain Cold. I was really happy with how Captain Cold figure turned out. I'm really happy with this one. If you recall, the Flash I thought was kind of mid. I thought they could have done a better job with the Flash. I took a nice picture of the Flash for my thumbnail. But when I was really looking at it, just the way the belt is done and the articulation and everything, it kind of reminded me of that cover where the Flash was turning into a puppet. The one where it shows him running and he's being turned into a puppet. I think it's Abracadabra turning him into a puppet. And he says, "I have the strangest feeling I'm being turned into a puppet." Well, yeah, we all know what that feels like, right? We've all been there, haven't we, fellas? Yeah. So, so yeah, Flash could have been better, but Captain Cold in this assortment, I will be as equally pleased with as Captain Cold. But right now, to me, it's looking like I'm gonna, at the end of the day, say Captain Cold is the best figure in the wave. But we'll see. We still got to open up Cheetah. We still got to open up Toyman, and we still got to open up both versions of Superman, which that's going to be one video. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. And end the stream. Then we do it correctly. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.